Good morning. Today is Friday, May 6, 2022. This is the Urban Hope Refuge Morning Devotions. We are continuing our reading today from the 2022 Daily Bible Reading Guide published by the American Bible Society. For the month of May, we are reading under the theme, God's Renewing Word of Promise. And I want to thank those of you who were with us yesterday as we celebrated the National Day of Prayer with thousands and thousands of people around the nation. I apologize for the late start because of a technical difficulty on yesterday. And if you desire to view the entire 1 hour of our National Day of Prayer celebration, you can find it on the Urban Hope Refuge Facebook page or Dr. Celeste Ashe Johnson's YouTube channel. Now for today, we're reading, as we stated, under the theme, God's Renewing Word of Promise. And today, I'm reading for yesterday and today under the theme, 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 1 through 26 in the New International Version. And the sub-theme is Hannah's Prayer. Verse 1. Then Hannah prayed and said, My heart rejoices in the Lord. In the Lord my horn is lifted high. My mouth boasts over my enemies, for I delight in your deliverance. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. Do not keep talking so proudly, or let your mouth speak such arrogance. For the Lord is a God who knows, and by him deeds are weighed. The bows of the warriors are broken, but those who stumbled are armed with strength. Those who were full hire themselves out for food, but those who were hungry are hungry no more. So she was barren. Again, so she who was barren has borne 7 children, but she who has had many sons pines away. The Lord brings death and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and raises up. The Lord sends poverty and wealth. He humbles and he exalts. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He sets them with princes and has them inherit a throne of honor. For the foundations of the earth are the Lord's. On them he has set the world. He will guard the feet of his faithful servants, but the wicked will be silenced in the place of darkness. It is not by strength that one prevails. Those who oppose the Lord will be broken. The Most High will thunder from heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. Then Elkanah went home to Ramoth, but the boy ministered before the Lord under Eli the priest. Sub-theme: Eli's wicked sons. Eli's sons were scoundrels. They had no regard for the Lord. Now it was the practice of the priests that whenever any of the people offered a sacrifice, the priest's servant would come with a three-pronged fork in his hand while the meat was being boiled, and would plunge the fork into the pan or kettle, a cauldron or pot. Whatever the fork brought up, the priest would take for himself. That is how they treated all the Israelites who came to Shiloh. But even before the fat was burned, the priest's servant would come and say to the person who was sacrificing, "Give the priest some meat to roast. He won't accept boiled meat from you, but only raw." If the person said to him, "Let the fat be burned first, and then take whatever you want," the servant would answer, "No, hand it over now. If you don't, I'll take it by force." This sin of the young men was very great in the Lord's sight, for they were treating the Lord's offering with contempt. But Samuel was ministering before the Lord, a boy wearing a linen ephod. Each year, his mother made him a little robe and took it to him when she went up with her husband to offer the annual sacrifice. Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, saying, "May the Lord give you children by this woman to take the place of the one she prayed for and gave to the Lord." Then they would go home. And the Lord was gracious to Hannah. She gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. Now Eli, who was very old, heard about everything his sons were doing to all Israel and how they slept with the women who served at the entrance to the tent of meeting. So he said to them, "Why do you do such things? I heard from all the people about those wicked deeds of yours. No, my sons, the report I hear spreading among the Lord's people is not good. If one person sins against another, God may mediate for the offender. But if anyone sins against the Lord, who will intercede for them?" His sons, however, did not listen to their father's rebuke, for it was the Lord's will to put them to death. And the boy Samuel continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with people. This concludes our reading for today of 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 1 through 26. This passage of scripture recounts the song or the poem of Hannah, where she's telling her story. It also talks about the corruption of the priests that were descendant from Eli, his sons. And it also talks about Samuel's ministry to God, even as a child. So 1 Samuel chapter 2, verses 1 through 10 that I just read was a prayer that was delivered by Hannah to give thanks to God for the birth of her son Samuel. Now, this is the last devotional that we have before Mother's Day on Sunday. So out of all of the 26 verses that I read, I did not read verses 27 and 28, but I'm going to read verse 28 because I want to deal with verse 28, seeing that Sunday is Mother's Day. So, verse 28 says, "For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted my petition made to him. Therefore, I have given him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is given to the Lord." And Hannah's words brings her young son Samuel to Eli, the priest, and leaves him there to be raised in the temple. This barren woman who could not have children, God answers her prayer. He gives her the child, the son, not just the child, but she specifically asked for a son. And you know that that has historical meaning and perspective, that she would especially want a son. But Hannah knew the anguish of being a barren Jewish woman. She wanted nothing more than a son. She poured out her soul to the Lord, and he gave her a son. And she named him Samuel. The names have had meaning to them. And Samuel's name meant heard of God. God heard her cry, and he answered. And he, Samuel, her baby, was her delight. He was her gift. And after he was weaned, in obedience to God, she took him and released him to God. She literally took her son around age 3 and took him to the temple and gave him back to God through the priest Eli. Now, I am a mother of 2 sons, and I have learned that the greatest gift that a mother can give to a child is to entrust them to the Lord. Out of all of the toys and the clothes and the experiences, the travels that I could give my children, the greatest gift that I could give them was to entrust them to the Lord. You know why? Because God has made a path for every child, regardless to how that child got here. God has made a path for every child, and a part of our role as a mother is to empower that child to follow the path that God has made for them. Now, the greater question is whether the mother will have the faith to do that. There was so much about the children, my sons. I didn't know what God's will was for them. I didn't know what they would end up being, what kind of men they would be. But God knew. So I had to, and you as mothers also must have faith that God has the path and the plan, and we are to entrust our children to God. So, how could Hannah have the faith to trust God with Samuel at age 3, bring him into the temple, and give him to the priest Eli? She did. God used him as a child, and he used him to serve and save a nation. I want to take this opportunity to wish every mother a very happy Mother's Day. Entrust your children and encourage your children to entrust their children to God. And as you do so, pray your way through the day. Walk with the King and be a blessing. Happy Mother's Day, all the mothers.